Hi guys, and welcome to this week's episode of Knowledge Finder EDU. Today we have another special guest in the building, CEO of Forbes Family Group and co-founder of 6 Degrees Talent, Davina Williamson. Hi and welcome.
Hi, Eli. Lovely to meet you. Thanks for having me on.
Get a new job, elevate in your career, or maybe you're just looking for a change. Davina has a vast amount of experience in the recruiting industry, PR industry, and also there are many great initiatives that she's working on with the Forbes Family Group. So without any further ado, Davina, if you'd like to give us a little breakdown into yourself and how it all started, career journey-wise.
Okay, hi. So, I say thanks again for having me on. I have been in recruitment for nearly 20 years now. So it's been a long journey of understanding the industry and growing and starting my own business within that sector. In terms of where I started, I mean, like everybody, finished school. I did some A levels. University wasn't for me. I didn't have that need to study that one thing or that element to want to go and study at uni. I just wanted to go and work and hustle. I've been working since I was 14.
Yeah.
Had like 3 jobs when I did my A levels. So I was just all about the hustle. So I finished my A levels and disappointed my parents greatly by saying I wasn't going to uni. And I started working in admin roles. I worked in, and I found myself naturally drawn to the media industry. So I sort of worked in admin roles, secretarial roles, and I walked into a recruitment agency that specialised in media, advertising, TV recruitment to look for a job. And they were just like, why don't you work here? And It was a great office. It was full of women who were young and dynamic, and it was fun, and it really appealed to my own sensibilities and energy at that time. So I was there as worked my way up to the office manager, and then I started training to be a consultant, and then I left the industry, and I decided to go and work for one of the clients that we recruited for. So I went into media planning and buying for a couple of years, and again,
what does that entail?
Media planning. So this is what I found when I sort of was in these admin roles. There were so many sectors out there in the creative services industries that I didn't know, like Little Girl from Peckham, I didn't know they existed.
Yeah.
So media planning buying is the process of how brands buy their advertising space through multi-platforms. So at the time, when this is 20 years ago, God, the age showing. At the time, this was traditionally like above the line, what you call above the line, so print media, TV media, and things like that. So, you know, Nike want to do a 60-second ad, they would go to a media planning buying agency. So the ad would have already been created by an ad agency, and then the media planning buying agency would create a strategy as to where that would be best positioned to get the most kind of brand awareness and traffic and that sort of thing. So they would create a strategy and then they would deal with the agency, like the advertisers or the broadcasters, to then buy space on their channels. So like when you're watching Coronation Street, for example, and there's those 3-minute ad breaks, that used to be like the most valuable 3 minutes of advertising space in the country. Do you know what I mean? Because they know the demographic is like, at the time, like 8 million people are watching. So that's the kind of viewership you're going to get on your advertising. So I was quite lucky that I worked in the digital side, which was new. This is before anybody had a phone with an app on it. And planning and buying I worked in digital planning and buying. And I supported like the MDs, worked on pitch docs, and it was great for me. But it didn't tap into what I enjoyed the most. And I enjoy people. Like, it's a real, if you know me, I know a huge amount of people. You know, in another life, I'd be an anthropologist, because I'm just like fascinated by people. And actually, when I ended up doing a degree later on, when I was working, I did it in humanities and English, because I'm fascinated about how we all exist in this world, you know? So, and recruitment allowed me to do that. Like, I'm naturally quite nosy. I like to find out about people, what makes them tick, what drives them, what interests them. So yeah, I missed recruitment. I missed the autonomy. I missed the energy. I missed that sales buzz, and I missed the money, because the commission was good. I was in my early 20s, like living some like Wolf of Wall Street life.
Must have been good at your job then.
Yeah, I was. It was really natural for me to like build relationships with clients and with people, and people bought into me, and that's a big part of recruitment, you know.
Yeah.
So I left media planning buying, went back into recruitment, and I started there doing advertising and creative recruitment, and then when I ended up moving on to PR. So PR I didn't know much about, and it's weird now because now I feel like I know so much about PR. But PR itself is how brands communicate their messaging and manage their reputation to the public. So in itself, you've got celebrities will have a PR person that will manage their sort of, media interviews and their profiles and things like that. But actually big brands, banks, pretty much every company that exists has some kind of external communications strategy and process. And that's basically what PR is. In the UK, you've got in-house PR, which is when you work internally for the brand and you deliver their communication strategy. And then you've got agency PR, which is where a lot of my work happens. So,
let me just stop you right there, because there's so much information. So, if we go back to the actual when you were buying the advertising space. And you was also recruiting for that similar roles. So
when I worked at the media planning buying agency, I was working in a digital team, and as I say, it was new. So I worked a lot of the pitch work. I supported the directors because I sort of transitioned from admin to work for them. But planning and buying itself, I found really boring. It was a lot of number crunching and things like that, and it just didn't appeal to me at all.
I'm with you. So if somebody did want to get into PR, advertising, planning and buying, as a recruiter, what are you looking for qualifications wise?
I think it's more what the employer's looking for. It's what my clients are looking for. Traditionally, the routes into creative services does come through that graduate route. The thing is, there are so many different roles in those spaces that, I worked alongside a guy that had a forensic science degree and he ended up doing media planning buying. So there's no one thing that gets you there. But the kind of elitist nature of recruitment means that the degree will get you through the door faster than anything, no matter what it's in. If you have a media, English, history, PR sort of degree, then that is going to definitely put you in good stead, because a lot of what you're doing is producing documents, be it reporting or creative. So those writing skills that you develop through your university kind of course is what's going to be valued. Everything else you're going to learn on the job, unless you're doing that industry specific degree. But equally, you've got creative roles, even in PR agencies, especially now, content is king. Like, that's what we say. And having design skill backgrounds, illustration background, content production, those sort of skills are transferable within those industry sectors. So there is a combination. There's been a lot of change over the last 2 years on so many levels, but for me personally, especially when I'm talking to clients about ED&I, for example, I'm trying to emphasize to them that socioeconomic disadvantage will mean that some people don't have the opportunity to go to university, but they've still got those skills and that talent to be in your business. And it's one of the things that Forbes Family Group is trying to create a bridge for through our Project 10, which I know we'll talk about later, initiative to get college leavers who aren't necessarily on that university's track, but have a really, who have talent, who have a skill set, but don't have the networks to get them into those kind of industry sectors.
Totally. And that's common ground for us, because one of the reasons for starting Knowledge Finder was actually just that, the socio-economic gap and people not being aware of these roles. So what I was actually going to ask you next is, what are the top 3 roles that to you are hidden in the PR industry or advertising industry?
In creative services generally,
What are some roles that people may not know about, but they could go and search for the job title and find out more?
I think people underestimate the value of getting in at the bottom. You know what I mean? Like reception, admin roles, those sort of things. As I know so many people who have transitioned from those roles and who are now director levels, because you're training on the job and you're gaining the trust and the exposure and the knowledge of the people around you. And it's about, you could get a job as a receptionist at a big ad agency and go in and do that job and go home. Or you could be the person who in your lunch break goes upstairs and sits with the creative teams and finds out what pitches they're doing and helps on research. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely,
so it's about your own intention.
I've got a friend actually that works for Havas and took that exact route from reception to producer.
There you go. Do you know what I mean? And it's more likely to happen. And I think not enough people are prepared to kind of, go for those sort of roles, or even understand that those roles exist in those spaces. Like the first recruitment agency that I worked in at the time specialised in admin roles into those sectors, which is how I got exposed to those sectors existing. But I've got a cousin of mine who I got into a receptionist role, and now she's executive assistant to one of the biggest Hollywood stars in the world. And that's her path started from doing a part-time reception job for one of my PR clients.
Yeah, no, that's amazing.
Now she's rolling with Oprah and Beyonce. Do you know what I mean? But it is about your work ethic and what you do when you get in there. The roles, they're not that hard to find if you know they're out there. So it's really a catch-22 for people from, like we say, these sort of challenging environments. If you don't know exist, how do you get there?
Yeah, it's true. And how do you find it? Unless you're exposed to the environment. And I always say to people, change your environment yourself. Like you say, go into, I chose the banks. I was just fascinated with the banking industry when I started out in IT. But when I got there, the same thing you said, I learned so much. I met so many people, and then I was able to navigate. But changing your environment would expose you to something you may not know existed, or just spark an idea that leads you to something else. That's what I've found.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. You go into one company and you see 4 or 5 divisions and people are doing different things. And you're like, actually, that person's job looks like something I want to do. And then you start to, I say I had a friend who, she did her degree media degree while she was working at this media planning buying agency we was at. And so when she graduated, they were like, great, you can go straight to the AE level rather than going through the grad thing because you've been here for 4 years. We know you know what you're doing. Do you know what I mean? But then equally the challenge is when you do that, when you do transition in an environment, is you get emotionally engaged and you don't know when to leave sometimes. And it's so important because sometimes when you've been the junior person or the reception or the admin, that's how you're still seen even when you progress. So it's important that you get that skill set and you move on.
So I was going to ask you about that. So get a raise or find a new job. How do you know when to do what?
Or even if you're looking for a new job, ask for a raise where you are first. So that would be my advice. I mean, ultimately, if you know that you're adding value in your role, if you know that your market value is higher than you're on, and if you feel that you have exhausted your learning curve and your development in that environment, then it's time to leave. But equally, make sure that you let your employer know that this is where you're at, because sometimes they'll say, actually, there's this new initiative or new opportunity that you could be good for that's going to create new challenges for you. Or they're going to actually validate the fact that you need to go by shutting you down, know? So I think whenever I always say to my candidates when they come to me in the first instance, not just, why do you want to leave? Sure, a lot of people are ready. If somebody's been there over 3 years, I don't really question it. But if it's less than that, I always question as to whether they are...
Less than 3 years?
Yeah, if it's less than 3 years and then their progression doesn't look like it's, if you're working on the same, if you're PR account exec and you've gone up to account manager level, but you're still on the same brand, the work is, you're working with the same director and so on. If you don't feel that your learning curve is actually developing beyond just doing the job with more responsibility, then it's important that you expose yourself to other people and other environments, because that's how we grow. Do you know what I
Definitely.
mean?
I should I should really show you my CV. You'd laugh your head off. Because and I'll give this game to the guys as well. But of those of you watching, a lot of you go for the graduate schemes and try to get them. Very difficult to get due to the numbers. But luckily, I was in I would say, a blessed position, even though I didn't know it at the time. So I started working without the need for the job. I went solely to learn.
Okay.
Solely. I started working in the IT sector solely to learn how to build an IT business. No, I didn't even know what business I wanted, what IT business I wanted. I just thought, let me see how this works. I got a first in my degree, might as well use it, you know what I mean? See how it goes. So in my first role, I got exposed to the environment, and due to the fact I'm only there to learn, the minute I stopped learning, I'm speaking to the management, I'm speaking to everybody. I'm like, what's going on? I need a raise. I can do what this guy's doing. He's 40, I don't care. I can do his job. Come on, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
that's it.
I resigned every 6 months, and then I actually went back to Middlesex during that time and kind of gave a talk on it. I near enough created my own graduate scheme by resigning every 6 months, and it would be like frowned upon in the normal way, but at the same time I was upskilling, doing a ton of additional courses. Sorry. And at that time, after doing the courses, my value was increasing like tenfold every time I got a new qualification, and I could actually do the job. So I was very, very confident in the workplace. It created loads of problems. Guys were trying to box me in, but eventually it was amazing because you have way more knowledge and way more freedom, and I could just see a lot more. So I'll definitely say, in my opinion, 3 years that better be a good place.
No, it's so true. I mean, it's interesting, but here's the flip side of that. Is I was talking to a brilliant candidate yesterday, and she's probably got about 2.5, 3 years experience, but she'd had like 5, 6 jobs. So from an employer point of view, as a recruiter, you're really jumpy. Like, is it you or is it them at this stage? You know, it's like, you know, at some point, is it you? Like, are you not working out? But her narrative made sense. She was headhunted for 2 out of 2 of the roles. One of them she relocated, and that's why, like you say, your CV, as long as the narrative behind your CV justifies your movements and there is progression in every level, a smart client is going to see the value. But the problem is that lack of commitment is going to go, is it worth us investing in you if you're going to be gone in 6 months? So it is a catch-22. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
You know, you started out with a first in your degree. So you're already like in a great place, because that in itself, again, that kind of the way that we still value academia in the workplace, you know, across all industries. At first, it's a huge achievement. Do you know what I mean?
Like, to me, it's like a golden ticket bus pass.
Exactly
that's
that.
about it.
Exactly that. Do you know what I mean? It shows not just a high level intelligence, but a huge amount of work ethic and commitment to actually get first. Do you know what I mean? And that sets you apart. So that's going to discount a lot of your jumpy career. But if you've got a 2-2, you know, you've got to think about then, you know, what that looks like overall, bigger picture. As I say, I don't think there's anything wrong with changing your job every 12 to 18 months, as long as you are progressing and you're not the same person you walked in the door 18 months ago. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
I find people sometimes that will come to me and they're like, oh, you know, I've been here. And I'm like, okay, so this is where you were. Who are you now? What's your skill set? What are you bringing? What are you delivering? If you were managing 50 grand budgets then, are you managing 250 grand budgets now? Because if you're not, then where's the growth? If you manage 3 people,
is that how you ask them as well?
Yeah, no, I live a life of vigorous honesty with my clients and my candidates.
If I was just my first encounter with a recruiter, I'd be like, whoa.
Do you know what? There's a lot of value. I don't operate as a lot of recruiters do. I mean, I do work with honesty. I will say to people, like, you need to stay where you are for another 6 months. Like, this is not the time for you to move. Or, you know, I'll say to them, you know, you've basically stayed too long. You're like, you know, resting home for elephants. You got to find a new way to position yourself. And it's similar with my clients. Sometimes they'll try and be really picky and be like, oh, we want to see another 2 people. I'm like, good luck with that. I'm not going to work anymore on this search because I know that this person is where you need to be. if you just want to benchmark to see who's out there, I'm not here for that. Like,
I'm with you,
you know,
totally.
because it's a waste of my time, and
Let's
time
get
is
into
the most precious commodity, you know?
It's true. It's true. Now, working with you seems like it can be pretty efficient. What I was going to ask, let's take it back
Sorry.
to the recruitment business side of things then. Why do your clients trust 6 Degrees Talent? We can clearly see now, it's very honest and very direct. So, but in your opinion, why do your clients choose you? A lot of people at home, they're interested in recruiting. It can be very lucrative business. So if they were to start their own recruitment business, why would somebody choose them?
Recruitment has got it's got a bad reputation in a lot of ways, because unfortunately, for me personally, I think integrity is the most important thing with recruitment. Like, it's a very difficult job. You're basically working with people, which are the most unreliable products you can sell to anybody. And there's so many variables with it. So understanding a baseline of trust and expectation, to me, is the first thing. Like, I will say to every candidate I meet, I may not be the person who's going to place you in your next job, but I will help you get there, because that's the reality. If I placed everybody that I met, I wouldn't be here. I'd obviously own an island. Do you know what I mean? I've met thousands of people over the course of my time. And if I filled every job I had, but I work on a very high kind of service level with my clients. Like, so for the recruitment business, I've worked in, I think, six or seven different recruitment environments before setting up 6 Degrees Talent. I think that's the first thing that's really important. You need to have worked in the industry, not just been in one place and then gone, oh, I can do this. You can, don't get me wrong, but we've been going 12 years. And when we set up, my business partner and I, John, who's brilliant, there was probably about 8 or 9 other recruiters in our business who set up around the same time. And now I'd probably say 2 or 3 of them still exist, because a lot of recruiters go, yeah, I can do this, I'll do it for myself. But the business side of things will definitely like pull you down quickly if you don't have that understanding of how business needs to work and the commercial viability of what it takes to be successful. You can be in your recruitment business billing 150K, maybe taking home 70 once you're, from that company, and think, oh, if I just build this 150K, it's mine. But when Mr. Taxman comes for you and your overheads are piling up and your clients haven't paid you for 90 days, then it all gets very real. Do you know what I mean?
No, definitely.
So there's that level of understanding. But also, like you say, your clients are the ones who pay you, So you have to have those relationships, because unless you're prepared to drop your rates to work with them, which devalues what you do, then that's going to create an issue for you anyway. Like, I work at relatively high rates with all my clients. I turn down clients who don't want to work at my rates all the time, because I know the value of what I bring. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So why do my clients? Well, that baseline of integrity and service level. Like, I do what I say I'm going to do. I don't overpromise. I am consistent and communicative. If things go wrong, if things go right, I let them understand the variables that are going to happen on both sides, Equally, I'm a really nice person. People like me. And that's a massive part of any business. Like, people, when you see, like, in the last 2 years where we've been through a pandemic, there's been no recruitment. Like, I went from having 90 live briefs I was working on, to 8 within 2 months. Wow. And this is the start of lockdown. Because bearing in mind, if people had no offices, I mean, people were going on furlough, people were having to make mass redundancies. So, recruitment was the bottom of the pile. But I did loads. What I did was I started providing other value services for clients. That I didn't charge for. I put together ED&I policy documents and advice. I worked with them on their retention packages, on their benefits packages, on what their transition should be, what I was hearing on the market. I kept in contact. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I actually picked up loads of new business. So by the time the market was ready, when they were starting to recruit again, we actually had our best year last year.
So your name is in the forefront then, because you've done the work.
I've done the work, you know, and I had the longevity. I've had the longevity as well, and I know the sector, and I'm quite well connected in that sector. So, I mean, I don't advertise, for example. For new people, it's all through referrals and headhunts.
So if somebody hasn't got any connections, how do they start to build relationships with clients? Do they cold call companies? How do you do it if you're just kind of a newbie to your own business?
But you should know your sector. I mean, I can't imagine anybody sort of leaving uni and going, oh, I want to start a recruitment business. You'd need to be in it. And your sector specialism is going to have a huge impact on that. I mean, at the moment, the entire country has a staff shortage. You know, people are a valuable commodity right now.
Yeah.
So you can have the best recruitment business in the world, but if you can't get candidates through your door to pass on to your clients, you're basically useless. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Picking up new business, if you want to charge 10%, is going to be easy. Do you know, that's, you know, I charge on average 20%. So it's a very different thing. Like charging 20% of somebody's salary is a lot of money for a client to pay, but because of the caliber of the people I'm going to put in their business, their ROI is going to exceed that within a few months, you know? So if somebody wanted to start recruitment business, I would say you need to have a good amount of experience understanding the nuances of recruitment, you know.
In the field first. You'd be surprised. There are people that want to start and they've never been a recruiter before.
And it's possible, I'm sure, you know, I know people who have invested in people and made money like that, but I don't know where they are now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like I say, the market is, the variables are your people and the market is flippant. Like recruitment is usually most companies' second or third biggest cost after premises, you know. But equally it's the one they're always trying to keep down. Always trying to cut them down.
With you. When I was young, I went to Ghana and Jamaica when I was really young. And been back since. But when I went the first time on both runs, I was playing like football with these kids and whatnot, and they got no shoes, no nothing, yeah. And I looked around, and I was in Jamaica at the time. Where was this? At Truluni in the bushes, yeah. And I just thought to myself, these guys are so happy, but on the flip side, they have no way to change their situation. So what it meant for me was it just like opened my eyes. At that time, I may have been like 11 or something, like year 7 or something, even maybe earlier. But I thought, being in England, in London, by itself, just living in London, born here, whatnot, you have to just use your opportunity and take full advantage of your opportunities. Not just like work and 9 to 5 and die. You have to squeeze all the juice you can squeeze because you've got this is like one of the only cities in the world where you can do it.
No, 100%. Literally. I agree. I mean, I've got a friend from Sierra Leone. We worked together years and years ago. And whenever I would sort of go to give money to like homeless people, she'd be like, Davina, you crazy? They got British passport. Leave them alone. I'd be like, no. But she's like, when I was in Sierra Leone, if somebody really didn't have nothing, they didn't have nothing. Like this guy's got 5 bags, a dog, 2
legs and hands and everything's working.
Like sleeping bag, hat, baseball cap, and I'd be like, okay. But she's like, you're right. It's all relative to where you come from.
Yeah.
And I think that's similar to like we were saying about the job market, the Korean industry. It's all relative. Like when I always remember when I was like year 10, do you remember you do your 2 weeks work experience?
Yeah.
And I went to, my school was in Peckham, and it was a girls' school, and I was really bright. I was like head of the school council in year 9 and all this sort of stuff. I put myself out there. And it was time to do work experience. And it was like 2 things. Like if you were one of the smart girls, you might go to the local the solicitors or the local accountants that they had their little, you know, relationships with. And then the others would end up in like supermarkets, shops and things, or hairdressers and whatever. And I was like, but I want to be in media. I want to like be a journalist at the time when I was young. And they were like, well, we can't do that for you. You know, you can go to the solicitors above the McDonald's on Peckham High Road. And I was like, nah. So I wrote to South London Press, Voice, all these places. And I got myself a 2-week work experience at the South London Press, right? And it was great for me. I learned so much there in that 2 weeks. And now, like I remember for years after, my school managed to get other girls to go there
Yeah.
for years and years after I left. And it just goes to show, like you say, the opportunity's here. You just got to want to take it and also be exposed to it. Do you know what I mean? Like, my mum's always been the person we always had books in the house, papers in the house. So I was a big reader anyway. So, knowing that just from reading a lot and having a newspaper always, at the time, the Daily Mail, don't talk about that now. But, it was always in the house. They were delivered to our house. Like, it was that serious. My dad would get upset if the Daily Mail wasn't there, sort of thing. But so therefore, I understood, like, journalism and that sort of thing, how it worked, and that there was somebody who was paid to write articles, and that was something I wanted to do from a young age. But you're right, you're only as broad as the exposure you have to things. So just working at the South London Press for two weeks, I worked in the advertising team, sales teams, and then the editorial teams. But that's when I found out that advertising and sales existed as an industry, and I think sales is a really underrated industry for non-graduates. Like, I think people see sales jobs and they go, oh, I don't know, it looks like, but actually I did a telesales job when I was 16, selling magazine subscriptions. And I tell you, that's one of the toughest jobs I've ever had, right? I used to finish college and go to Putney and work 6 till 9 on the phones, right? But that's
the only job I had prior to graduating, actually. I had a job for Ipsos Mori doing a similar thing, reading like a robot.
But it taught me to be so. Well, it's funny because you get the script, they give me the script, and I used to sell magazine, and all the other girls would want to sell like Cosmo and whatever. I used to sell Fisherman's Weekly and Golf Weekly because the commission on those were huge. Yeah, you still could. If you were selling like £24 Cosmopolitan subscription, you were getting like £2.40. If you sold like one Golf Weekly or Fisherman's, it was actually called Fisherman's Weekly, like 5 Fishing Weekly, that would be like £25. So I'd rather bash out the phones and sell 3 of those than, but it taught me so much, like to be really robust, to have the phone put down on you, to be told to go away, don't call me again, such and such is dead. Like, I remember a woman, I was like, can I speak to Mr. Smith? And she went, not unless you're a medium, dear. Oh my God, I was 17.
All of that.
But when I went into recruitment, therefore, and I had to build a desk from scratch, and my boss gave me a Rolodex of like dead clients that hadn't been called for years, I already had that from being 17 and making those dead end calls. That sort of knowledge of it's going to be fine. The next call might be the one where you make the sale, or where you hit that client, where that client says, yeah, come in and have a chat.
I did appreciate that dead job. For me, I wasn't selling. I was just trying to get people to take the surveys. But it taught me how to speak on the telephone.
Right.
It taught me how to speak to different people, from grandmas to the business guys to like your, I don't know, Jack the lads or right wing guys on the phone, because they come on there too, and you could just adapt based on that. So that's quite funny that he did that.
And 100%, like I say, I think there's not enough value placed. Like, even young people, when they've got these CV, my first like proper job was Pizza Hut in Leicester Square. I learned so much about people. I worked with people from all over the world. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was a really international base, because like, that's where people, and I made tips like there was no tomorrow. Like, that place, I didn't even check what they paid me. I think I was paid like £3 an hour or something at the time. But I would make like £60-70 on a 5-hour shift in tips, because the turnover and the pace, and you learn how to charm people and how to, relate to people, like you say, from every spectrum, every corner of the world, every spectrum of life, And I think there's a huge amount of value that people don't understand, the difference between going that bit further, and actually utilising your background. Like, I remember when I was going to client meetings and stuff, and it'd always, you have sort of that banter, and you'd be like, oh, where are you from? And I remember I'd sort of go, oh, South London, and then I was like, no, I'm from Peckham. Say you're from Peckham. And then they'd be like, oh, I live in East Dulwich. And I was like, yeah, not the East Dulwich I know, but but and you realise that you just have to find a common ground with people to build a relationship, and it doesn't matter if somebody's aristocracy or somebody's living in the council estate. We all have common ground. It's just having that confidence to be able to ask and find out and be interested, be genuinely interested in people.
Definitely. That's a very key point. I'll always, when I'm speaking to people, I do say this, and they're like, how do you interact with so many people? And I say, I'm genuinely interested in people. Like, usually they got some game, or they've like traveled to some place I haven't been. They might, I don't know, cycle or do something I don't do, rowing. When I started in the professional world, I met a ton of guys that are into biking and yachts and boats, like sailing boats and stuff, which I do find interesting. I just never done that before. So I hit off some ground with these guys, and then I ended up like going to the houses of the CEOs, and their friends with like Bill Clinton and stuff. But I just go to the house and have a chat. It's great.
You never know who you're going to meet somewhere as well. I think that's why I love media industry at the time compared to the city, because you would meet a guy, like you say, ripped jeans, t-shirt, pair of Vans, and he would be the MD of like a big advertising agency. And that always appealed to me, that you don't take people at face value. Do you know what I mean? The guy in the suit could well be the account exec who just started last week, and understanding that success, wealth, and those things aren't aesthetics.
I'm with you.
They're mindsets and their intentions and actions.
Yeah, no, I learned the same thing a different way, but I would definitely agree on that point. And for the people at home, I would say, when you're looking at senior people within your companies and you're going for promotions and you think, oh, this guy's really senior, if you remove the suit and the title, he's just another guy like you. So you can forget all of that and just look at skills.
Yeah.
Have you got the skills? Have you got the ability? And kind of progress from there. I think a lot of people, especially coming from our community, they feel this kind of a complex where they see the big guys in the suits in the city and they would think that they're just so on a different league to where they are. So they don't really see themselves getting there, which I think that's a big problem.
Absolutely. I mean, I know a lot of traders and banking guys, like through friends' husbands and stuff like that. I'll tell you now, probably about 40, 50, 60% didn't go uni. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and unfortunately, if I'm honest, this is the other thing about the creative services industry. Unfortunately, a lot of people get these roles because of who they know.
Precisely.
I mean, like I said, I worked with this guy who had a forensic science degree. He had a degree, but he got the job because his dad was the accountant for the MD of the company. Yeah. Like literally. So he got, he was like, oh, my son's finished his forensic science degree and he doesn't want to do forensic science because he realised he can't stand the sight of blood. And he went to a crime. He did his placement at a crime scene and walked off first week. And he's like, this is so. But his dad managed to get him a job, and that's something that the Forbes Family Group. That's one of the bridges that we're trying to create between providing people a network and access to these industries, these companies, these people that will just give them that leg up, that introduction to. Like, we can't build your career, but we might just be able to get you that interview. Once I always say to my candidates, like, I'm not here to get you a job. I'm here to introduce you to my clients. Yeah. What you do with that introduction is down to what you do on that day. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
And like I say, so like Project 10, for example, I mean, I've always, especially working in my industry, I've seen and know that despite graduates doing fantastically well in the industry, that there is a skill set within PR that is very much about the personality of people, and in with creative services. Yeah. You've got that kid at school who is brilliant at art, brilliant at creating, wonderful illustrations or whatever. But if he doesn't know that there is a job in a creative agency that he could actually do that without having to need his English and science degree, English and science GCSEs to be A stars. Do you know what I mean? Like, how's he going to go down that route? You know? So with Project 10, what we looked at is that gap of 18 to 21-year-olds who aren't necessarily going to go uni. They might do later on, but that's not their, I've finished school, college, this is where I'm going to go. And what we are planning to do is provide mentors for them. So we have access to some brilliant people. Dean, our CEO, is Powerlist 100,
Yeah.
tech unicorn, tech CEO unicorn. He's done tremendously well, starting from a no degree sales background. He's literally grafted. His work ethic is phenomenal, and his achievements are like incredible. And even he was introduced to his first job through at the time, his football agent, So what we want to do is give young people mentors. And, we've got lawyers, we've got doctors, we've got psychotherapists, we've got creative directors, we've got business owners. We have a raft of people from our communities, from our backgrounds, from our areas who have committed and volunteered to be mentors to these young people. We're put Dave McQueen, who's a brilliant business coach and senior leadership coach, is helping us develop the framework right now. He's one of our executive directors, and we're developing the framework where we will provide training for the mentors so they know exactly how to enrich and empower these young people. We're working with a school in Hackney, funnily enough. One of our contacts is a deputy head there. So, we want to get 10 people at least from that environment, give them a mentor, somebody to, first of all, find out what their aspirations are and what their skill set is, and then empower them and give them the knowledge to help them create that persona that they need to actually get into those industries. And then we will provide them with 6 months work placements in companies that will facilitate those aspirations. And the mentors will support them through that point. They will be given that opportunity, and our goal is that at the end of that 6 months, that company will offer them a job on the best case scenario, and at the very worst case scenario, they've got 6 months work experience in a good environment, and they have gained some real confidence and understanding of what it takes to navigate being in that working environment.
Yeah, that's a great initiative. How do people get involved if they're not linked to the school?
So at the moment, we're working with the school in our first instance. We will be putting it out on our socials, on our Forbes Family Group socials when we're opening applications. We are very committed to making sure that, we've done it in the past. We've provided mentorship. Project 10 has existed for a couple of years, but it's been a lot more ad hoc. It's been through people we've known. It's been through networks. And what we want to do is create a template for it that's sustainable and that we can grow and push out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in our first instance, we've earmarked a few of the places already. We do have a few people, but we'll have a few places that we will put open, similar to the Link Up TV, where we've got Rio as our mentor, who's shadowing Dean at the moment. We'll put that out on our socials. There'll be an opportunity to apply for that. Telephone will expect people to be able to put together a short video of themselves, kind of introducing who they are and what they're about, and provide a CV if they've got them. Like, we do want these people to show some intention, have some kind of work experience, show us that they're ready to do this, because we're going to commit to them. We're going to give them some really, inspiring and supportive mentors to help them through it, because I know it's tough. I mean, the thing is, it's all very well saying, just open the door to these people, to young people from different areas and whatever. But actually, as you know, when you get into professional environments, it's a lot to navigate that if you don't have a support structure to sound off to.
The hard way. So I definitely agree with that one.
Yeah.
So moving on to self-confidence then, because I think that plays a big part in it. You have great self-confidence, as I can see. So how is somebody, for example, they might hear about this project and think, I don't know if I should even go for it. So how do you build self-confidence so you can actually elevate and also confidence in your own ability to learn as well? How would you say you can work on that?
It's really hard because, our confidence is ultimately linked to our mental health and our mindset and how we perceive ourselves. And changing your self-perception is a journey, and it's ongoing, How do I think, without simplifying it, like, representation matters. Like, if young people see people that look like them, who have their stories, doing things that are aspirational,
Yeah.
that's how they're going to believe that it's possible for them. So that's the first thing, you know, you show them that it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is, you know, understanding the fact that failure is part of all success.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
for every job I didn't get, the ones I did get led me on this path. Do you know what I mean? And that's the truth. Like, you can apply for 10 jobs and think that the one you didn't get was going to be your dream job, but actually it probably wasn't, because you know, things do actually go the way it's supposed to. It's what your intention is when you go in there, you know?
Yeah.
You might go for an opportunity and not get it, and thinking it, but that's not you. You've got to understand that there's variables around you that are out of your control, basically. So I think that's the thing. So when we say self-esteem and stuff, it's like, equally you center yourself and you go, yeah, you know, this is my journey, but equally realize you can't control everything. And I think that's the problem with how we all operate. We all think that we can control everything. And you can't. And once you let go, see, I'm a yogi, I'm a yoga teacher and stuff. But so that detachment of going, I am fine with whichever way this goes, because I know I'm going to just do something else. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what we need to explain to young people. There is no failure. And it's unfortunate because it's a juxtaposition with how we position, like, academia. Like, if you don't pass your GCSEs, if you don't get these grades, it's going to destroy your whole path. It's like, no, you just retake them. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's life. Like, there's no this time scale that we've all got in our heads that you've got to be this by this age. It's a myth. It's a social construct.
Yeah.
And that's the undoing of all the social constructs that young people are sort of being fed into. You've got to look like this, you've got to have this, you've got to do it this way. It's all crap. Do you know what I mean? Because your journey's your own. And actually what's important is how you're growing, what you're learning, who you affect, you know, how you touch people. What do people think of you? Not in terms of what they think of you, but how do you leave them feeling?
Yeah.
You know?
I get what you mean, definitely.
So yeah, personally, I think that the way that we think about ourselves, the way we look at ourselves is important. And that's why I say that representation matters, because, you know, as a brown, dark-skinned black woman in the industry, in my industry, when I first went to the PR Week Awards when I was like 20, and there was like 3,000 people in this big awards dinner, I was one of about 10, 15 black people in the whole room. And half of them were working. Like, I was one of the like 7 or 8 at the table, you know. And I've seen that change over the years, but that could have affected me. I could have been like, oh my God, I don't fit here. But actually I was just like, I am here. And that's the thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, now I know that that's not the case. Like, younger people will see people like me in elevated positions who have gone down the path. So I think that it's very much a personal choice to decide you don't belong or that's not for you, you know?
Yeah. I definitely agree. When I first started out as well, similar thing happened to me. I always used to be in a room and I'm the only guy from the ends. Like, there's maybe a couple black guys dotted around in the city, but they weren't like me.
Yeah,
I was the only one.
Home counties, middle class.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
So I kind of used that to my advantage, actually, because people were very surprised when they hear like where I come from, my qualifications, etc. And so they would talk to me more, like the big guys, they would talk to me more because, I don't know, they always think the ends is cool, right? Exactly. So they talk to me. So when they're talking to me, I always ask them, what books you reading now? What's like, how do you learn that? How did you start? How did you learn that about your job? So at my house now, I've got a ton of books, and all of the hedge funds I worked for, I collected books along the way. And it was just an amazing experience because the knowledge was there. If you asked, they would share it with you. But if you just think, oh, I'm from the NZ, I'm not like these guys, and you just shy away from it, I would never have known.
Exactly. Leaning into yourself. Exactly that. It's the same, like I was saying about being from Peckham. Like, I used to be, oh, should I mention that? Because, you know, it's all Del Boy and Damiola Taylor. It's like, no, this is where I'm from. And actually, it's a big part of how I'm here and why I'm here and why you like me. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're all a product of our environment.
No, it's different.
Exactly. And you're right. Being unique is always going to be a good thing. you know? And I think that's the whole thing. Like you say, building your self-esteem is about leaning into the fact that actually we are all individuals, and leaning into your own self is going to be far more valuable than trying to emulate something that isn't authentic.
Definitely. I definitely agree. So next, what would you say are the top 3 books everybody should read?
There are no 3 books that everybody should read. Only because I think reading is a really personal thing. Like we can both read the same book, and I'm like, didn't feel it, and you'd be like, nah, I love this book. Do you know what I mean?
Let's narrow it down.
Okay, so
self-help.
All right, no, okay,
something like that. Or...
Okay, so actually, something I know recently wrote a book that I've actually sent out to 3 or 4 of my friends. So it's called Meditation with Intention by Anusha Wood-Kumar, and she is the book itself is about creating a consistent meditation practice, and by just starting 5 minutes a day. And I'm a massive advocate for meditation, mindfulness.
How long can you meditate for, by the way? Sorry to interrupt.
Do you know what? I couldn't tell you because I don't time my meditations.
Roughly.
I could meditate for a couple of hours.
One spot, not moving.
Yeah, absolutely. But then that's I've practiced yoga for about 15 years, and actually last year, like we talk about upskilling. Sometimes your upskilling is about your personal growth, and it will assist your professional growth. Because literally the day after my 40th birthday, I started a yoga teacher training course, and this is with 2 jobs, 2 businesses, 2 kids, husband, and I just said, no, I'm going to do this because I wanted to share my yoga practice with my mum initially. And then, safely and with a knowledge of knowing how to do it, not just because I did it.
Yeah.
So I did a yoga teacher training course, but, and meditation was something I always just did after yoga. Like after I'd done all my physical asana, I would be like, okay, I'll meditate now, sort of in Shavasana. But actually now I use meditation practice as my first thing I do every morning. So, meditating for long is the end goal. That's like, if, from a Buddhist point of view, the whole point of yoga is to be able to sit in meditation for hours. And if life permitted me, if my kids didn't come in and jump on my head or my phone wasn't going brr, 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 I could meditate for a couple of hours yet sitting in one space. But it's about creating a practice that serves you, and understanding that meditation doesn't need to be timed, because it's just about centering yourself and aligning yourself and being present. And whether you do that for 5 minutes or 50 minutes, that's the goal. Like I can now get myself into quite a deep state of meditation really quickly because my practice has got me there. So I can shut it all out within a couple of minutes. But some days I can sit down for half an hour and just my brain won't monkey mind is going. So, but I read a brilliant book called The Buddha Brain. I'm just finishing it actually, The Buddha Brain, which makes you understand the scientific mechanics of meditation and the benefits. But meditation with intention combines that with sort of anecdotal and more relatable understanding. So I would recommend that, because I think that the world would be a lot better place if people had a little bit more presence and weren't always worried about what they're going to do next.
So would you like to just tell us a bit about the Radar project you have going on?
Yeah, so Radar originally started as a sort of senior management mentor program. But what we found is there are, a raft of entrepreneurs, mid-level, people have been working 10 years, maybe 15 years in their careers. And they're at that pivotal point where it's like, I don't know if this is what I want to do forever. I don't know if this is actually, tapping into everything I'm capable of. So, often
I need to sign up.
yeah, this is it. But often they don't necessarily have access or the network to people outside of their sector or outside of their area of specialisms to know whether there's an opportunity for them and things like that. So what we've decided to do with Radar is create like a sort of fireside chat with some successful people from different sectors, different areas. Yeah. So it might be tech, it might be finance, it might be creative services, and get them to have a chat. Again, Dave McQueen's involved with that. He's going to host those. So we're going to have about 20 to 30 people. So it's going to be quite intimate. And so it'll be a fireside chat, Q&A. It'll be people like Dean, people like Tim Campbell. We've got some really great panelists involved.
When is this?
I'm going to get there. And there'll be a fireside chat, Q&A session, and then a bit of a networking session. Do you know what I mean? And it will give people the chance to maybe speak to the head of the access group. And, he ain't going to necessarily take you out to lunch, but he might say, actually speak to my procurement guy, or here's our HR. So that sort of thing. And we want to give people access and opportunity to, like we say, meet good senior leaders outside of their space and see whether there's opportunities there. And again, just provide them. What we found is, Forbes Family Group is about investments. We invest in small businesses and we help them grow and develop and support them with business strategy, marketing strategies, and just general objectivity when they're trying to grow. We've got some great brands, Foxbury Boys, Joe Knows Food, Our Game, and they're all starting to thrive under having that extra support. And then we're about community. We invest in 10MB, which is a brilliant black-owned football club that is, provides such a huge resource to young people in Lewisham Borough. And they're FA Cup winners 3 years in a row of their league, so they're doing good. And we sponsor them and set up a holiday club there. We enrich them, we empower them, and we provide them support. And then it's about mentorship, and mentorship happens at every single level. Everybody thinks mentors is when you're young and you need somebody old, but sometimes a mentor is somebody who's just done a different thing to you. Just had different access, just had different opportunities. So the radar, we're planning to run them every 6 to 8 weeks. The first one's happening at the end of March. We had some great people come to us through the recent opportunities we had for mentorship, business mentors. We've got 2 brilliant companies that we're mentoring. One's called Soccer Assist, which is 2 brilliant guys who set up a soccer academy to get young people in universities in the States on football scholarships, which is brilliant, and work with them. But, even them, it's not necessarily our sector. We do have quite good links in that sector, but actually giving them opportunities to come to something like the Radar Talks and just hear ideas and people's journeys and paths. So that's what the Forbes Family Group's about, which is why it's a real pleasure to do that alongside my day job sort of thing. It's growing as an entity because we realised that access knowledge and opportunity is only as good as your network,
Yes, I agree with you totally. And that's amazing. So guys, if you are interested, check out the Forbes Family Group Instagram. You'll see the details for all of the projects they're running there. So that is it for this week's episode of Knowledge Finder EDU. Davina, thank you very much for coming down. I really appreciate it. It's been great to meet you in the flesh, and all of the stuff you've told us. I think for those at home, there's definitely something you can take from this. And for those looking to change your career, get into business, you need a good recruiter. Contact Davina. So until next week, take care, guys.